Good evening. I'm Mayor Barbara Cannon, and I'm here tonight with the Mayor's Update. The purpose of this program is to talk about some of the things that are going on Old Bridge now and what you can expect to hear about in the next couple of weeks. As always, I have a guest with me. I'm very pleased to have Alvia Martin with me today from the Madison Township Historical Society and Museum, and I want to welcome you, Alvia.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
And Alvia is a lifelong resident and has been the curator of the Madison Township Historical Museum for about 20 years and has lots of wonderful, wonderful information about Old Bridge and its history, and we're never going to be able to cover it all in our short interview, but we're hoping that we'll be able to tell you something about the museum and also just to whet your appetite so you'll want to know more about your community and its origins. So, Alvia, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, because you are one of the founding families of our community, and I know you have been a lifelong resident, and you can just tell us a little bit about your background and what your maiden name was, because everybody will recognize
My maiden
that.
name is Disborough, and I guess most people are familiar with Disborough Road that runs alongside of the marketplace off Highway 34. I was born in the township, attended Keyport High School, and then went on to becoming an RN up at Jersey City Medical Center. So that's my profession, now retired, and found a new occupation being curator of the museum that I enjoy very much.
Right, and I think your name is synonymous with, when we think about learning more about the history of Old Bridge, we go to you, because you have so many wonderful stories and information. And the museum now, we were talking about that because it was a one-room schoolhouse right on 516, and you said that's been there as a museum since the 60s, the mid-60s?
The museum is located in a one-room schoolhouse built in 1885.
Right.
However, it's a Cedar Grove school, and there was a school there as early as 1821. Mm-hmm. So we were privileged to be housed in it. We, for $1 a year, the Board of Education let us use it in the 60s, and then finally gave it to us at the end of about 69, I guess. And we had all the renovation and that done.
Right.
And used it as a collection place, really, for a lot of the articles as the farms were going down. People didn't know what to do with all these valuable things. Right. So they willed them to us, and that really started the museum, and the Historical Society are the governing body, really, of the museum.
And I know that, you know, you recently did an expansion, which was, I guess, completed a couple of years ago, but you have a wonderful, wonderful collection. You have, as you say, sort of a little bit of everything. And you don't want to just talk about the scope of the collection? Well,
we, in our new gallery, we have large cases of fossils. We have Indian artifacts. We have a large collection of baskets. We have some things from the Revolutionary War, Civil War, World War II even. We have a household collection, industry collection of Brookfield glass and some railroad memorabilia. We have children's toys. We have a lot of things that were made at the South Amboy potteries, and our biggest collection actually is the salt glazed stoneware collection that is known actually all over the United States. No matter what museum you go into, whether it be Brooklyn or Winterthur or even the Ford Museum, you will find South Amboy cheesequake pottery. The discovery of clay here by James Morgan before the Revolution actually opened up the whole clay industry for the state of New Jersey. So Middlesex County is noted for terracotta and bricks like Sayre and Fisher, and we had Oshwell brickyard down in the Lawrence Harbor area. So our biggest claim to fame, I guess, is our pottery.
And it's really wonderful, and I didn't realize that it is shown all over in the museums that you mentioned, and is known throughout the United States. So I know a lot of us experience clay soil when we try to do gardening and so forth in our yards, but here it was put to a very productive use and something that put us on the map. As far as the museum, do you want to just go over the hours? And also you had emphasized that it is a nonprofit and that you don't get any dollars from the township or the county or the state. It's really all through donations, which I think is important.
Well, the museum itself is named the Thomas Warren Historical Museum and Library. It's located on Route 516 opposite Carl Sandburg School. We're open Wednesday mornings, 9:30 to 12, and the first Sunday of each month, 1 to 4. The other days of the week, we do school classes and scouts and different organizations, and they're by appointment only. Actually, there's no charge for admission. We're self-supporting and a nonprofit organization.
And you said that you do get donations from people whose roots were here, and through wills, and people that remember Old Bridge or Madison Township. And
I told you what was in the new gallery. In the old gallery, we have a very large collection of maps that date back to the 1600s on through till today. We have genealogical files, hundreds of photographs, actually, maybe 1,000. We also have many New Jersey research books, and try to purchase the ones that the local library does not have, kind of specialty books, maybe on, say, the Bloodgoods or the Browns or something else. And we have files on everything imaginable, from architecture to, I was trying to think of something in the Z, but I can't. But organizations and
so it sounds like a really wonderful
all kinds of hundreds of files on different categories.
So you must get, I bet, a lot of people that are doing some kind of research or historical research who will use your resources. We
even have a man from Alaska who has his roots here that writes us pretty regularly. Apparently has some roots in the Berlew family.
Oh.
And it's like the Browns, you know, they're all over the place.
Right,
so
right.
Getting them together is rather difficult. But even from California and Texas, and we get calls actually from all over the United States.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I had asked you why it is called the Madison Township Historical Society and Museum, and our name since the 70s has been Old Bridge, and you told me why you hadn't changed it to Old Bridge.
Well, Old Bridge Township is rather new, being designated in '76, I believe.
Right, I think that was...
And Madison Township really is because President Madison actually frequented the area. He went with Philip Freenew's sister, and Philip Freenew was the poet of the Revolution, for the historians that don't know that. And he was really a friend of the farmers here. So Madison Township seemed to be appropriate at the time. When we broke away from South Amboy Township in 1869, before that we were the South Ward of Perth Amboy. So when you're doing research, it is very, very difficult.
You really have to go back through the...
And we clung to the Madison because in East Brunswick there is a historic district of Old Bridge, and there's a lot of confusion between Old Bridge Township and the historic district of Old Bridge in East Brunswick.
As to what you're really talking about. When we were talking before the program, I said if there was ever like a center of town, like Mattawan has a sort of a downtown center of town area, and you had indicated that there were sort of the center was based on what is now Route 34. between sort of Cottrell Road and Route 9?
Up around Dock Road and Spring Hill Road, there was more industry up in that area. You had two churches. You had the old Baptist and Methodist churches, which are both very early. They're Revolutionary War soldiers even buried in those cemeteries, even though the churches no longer stand.
Right, we have the cemetery.
You had the shipping, people that came off the boats for the shipping that was on Cheesequake Creek right up until the 20s, probably 1920, and dating way back to late 1600s. People that came off the boats there frequented that area because you had the old Skillman Hotel, the old Morgan Hotel. You had tailors and blacksmiths, the old God blacksmith shop, which had been there for centuries probably. So it seemed to be the hub of activity for our area.
And you had mentioned that there was some kind of raceway behind New Amsterdam apartment?
Behind New Amsterdam, the Morgans had a racetrack.
Right.
There was also one down on the old Longstreet farm, which is down near Lake Ridge on 516. There was a racetrack there.
Right.
We had a lot of industry. We shipped our clay everywhere from Maine to Georgia, out to Ohio, even up to Canada. Even Wedgwood in England had samples of our clay
And you said
in
it was
his
also
collection.
out to the Erie Canal, that was mixed with some of the clay there. And
When
that
the
way
Erie
you could-
Canal came in, right, the potters there used the clay. And a lot of these pottery families had intermarried, the Warrens and the Morgans and so forth. So you find them wherever you find clay business going on.
We have some part of it, or we were some part of it.
Yeah, we had terracotta, we had brick factories all over, and as I say, even today, New Jersey's known for its Lenox china.
Right. Also, you were, just to highlight some of the things that happened here in town, which surprised me, and you were talking about the Wright brothers actually they were on Seidler Beach, which is the area between Lawrence Harbor and Cliffwood Beach, which is known as Seidler's Beach, that the Wright brothers had landed their plane there.
We had a very early interest in aviation in our area because the Collier brothers that ran the Collier's Magazine company in New York City lived in the Marlboro area, but they kept their airplane, their first Wright brothers plane they owned, had a first Wright brothers plane motor, I guess, in it. They kept that at Seidler's Beach in a barn. And they experimented with the landing of those early planes on the water. The Wright brothers, of course, were landing on sandy fields.
Right.
So it was an easier landing to land on water with pontoons. And we actually have pictures in the museum of the Colliers looking out over the Raritan Bay, watching the planes land and take off.
And they used to commute, you said, to New York by plane.
Mr. Collier, yeah, kept his plane there, and he commuted to New York by aeroplane. I guess some do it by helicopter now. But,
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. And you also were talking about, we all know about, we've heard a lot of stories about the resort activity that took place at the Lawrence Harbor beachfront. And I think we've all seen pictures of the different beach clubs and the bungalows that they had there. But you also were talking about some resorts out on Englishtown Road. That was interesting. Maybe you want to just tell us a little bit about that.
The Jewish clientele from New York City came to the railroad station, probably at Morgan, and by stagecoach that was owned by these summer resorts, took them down Englishtown Road, and they had handball and tennis and horseback riding. They owned their own, grew their own produce for the clientele. And I guess that Jewish clientele eventually moved into Lakewood, which became one of the largest Jewish resorts, I think, on the East Coast at
So
one
we
time.
really were quite a resort area between the beach area and then the area out on.
And there were several other, there were Kaplan's and Spiro's who were also resorts. So it's amazing the amount of business that we had after the Civil War, you know, the activity.
Right.
Whether it was up the Matawan Creek, the Cheesequake Creek, or even the South River.
And one of the things that we thought was interesting is that some of the things we're trying to achieve now, like our town center, it sounded like we had a hub of activity, you know, back in those days that we're trying to recreate around the municipal complex. We were talking about, you know, we're working to get a railroad station in Old Bridge. Well, we had one.
We had several.
We had a couple of them, and so we were trying to get that over in the Lawrence Harbor area. We are also always looking to try to get some transportation within the community, and you were saying that you used to ride the trolley up what is now Route 35 to go north.
Well, I'm not old enough to ride the trolley,
you
but
were,
my mother
yeah.
did.
But there was transportation you could get from here to...
Transportation was good. You could get even boats to New York City. There were pleasure boats
Right.
out of South Amboy and Keyport and Kingsburg and all along the Raritan Bay area. You could get anywhere you wanted to go, actually, by boat. Railroads, there was a station at Cliffwood. There was one at Morgan. There was one at Old Bridge.
Yeah, and then you used to run over
That's
on the
probably
board.
where the Jewish clientele came in, is the Old Bridge. I misspoke before about Morgan. The Morgan station was really used by the people who went to Lawrence Lamb's Country Club. And the Lamb's Club was an actors guild. And
where was that
the
located?
actors from New York came in, where the old Burlough's restaurant was.
Oh, okay.
They had a huge golf country club there, so to speak. But during the 20s, during Prohibition, that was used because there was gambling and liquor available. Prince of Wales played golf there. But our streams have been used for years, even since the American Revolution, for activity, whether it was smuggling or privateering. We had pirates in the bay in the early 1700s. Everyone's familiar with the pirate ship,
Right, right.
which
over-
was the Martian Walker, I guess, logo, so to speak.
Right.
And so I think we had a little bit of everything.
It certainly sounds, and I think, you know, I mean, I migrated here from New York via some other towns, but I think a lot of people that move out from the city, you know, certainly years ago, and even to some extent now, think of this as the countryside and it's rural and everything, and it is in comparison to, you know, some of the other areas, but we really, as you point out, historically, it's a hubbub of activity, commercial activity, resorts, commercial activities, so it's really fascinating, and you have, I know, so many other stories to tell, but before you leave, I just wanted to get in some of the things that the museum also has published, this wonderful book at the headwaters of Cheesequake Creek.
Available at your library.
Right, and you said you're in your third printing of that.
Yes.
And it's sort of the definitive history, basic history of Madison Township Old Bridge.
Yeah, the
And-
things we've talked about are, you know, if you want more information, if you can't find it there, you visit the museum.
Right.
And we'll try to meet your needs.
Also, you're now putting together another book, which you said is going to be a lot of pictures, sort of a postcard picture book.
One of the Arcadia books that are being published all over the state of New Jersey, actually.
Right, and also at the museum you have some other little things that you sell. I know you have this wonderful sort of Afghan that highlights the different historic areas of Old Bridge, and so the museum has all these wonderful resources and all these terrific things that you can look at, plus you know, getting some of these artifacts to bring home, and you do go into the schools and give talks, as plus you've said the schools do come to you, and
We
give
do it
your-
either way.
either way, and you just have such a wonderful wealth of information that's so fascinating, and I'm sure that we just whet the appetite of a lot of people, and they will be seeking you out and coming to visit you. And I do want to thank you again for coming by and appreciate all the work that you do on behalf of the community. And you're just such a wonderful resource, and it's just great talking to you. And thank you again for coming by, and we'll have you back.
Well, on behalf of the Madison Township Historical Society, we thank you for the opportunity to present our museum in such a great fashion.
Well, it's a wonderful resource and asset to the community. And thank you again, and we'll take a short break and be back in a few minutes.
When you mentor a child, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be yourself, which, by the way, is pretty good. Do good. Mentor a child. Call 1-877-BE-A-MENTOR.
3.
Hello again, I am back. I just have a few announcements that I would like to make that I think are of interest. One that I think is very appropriate, since we just talked to Alvia Martin about the history of Old Bridge, and which I think everybody has found very interesting, is the council's wish to name the old complex here, the municipal complex, after Mary Brown. And Mary Brown was certainly one of the very colorful historic ladies of Old Bridge, who served as the municipal clerk, township clerk for Old Bridge for many, many years. In fact, she was in her early 90s when she retired, and the Brown name is known throughout the community. And it certainly is fitting that we do have some kind of naming on her behalf. She passed away about 9 years ago. And it was suggested that we have the municipal complex named after her, and also the road in front of the municipal complex. This has been discussed by council. There were some concerns raised by some of the council and administration regarding the renaming of the road and what that would mean and so forth. But I'm sure we'll come to an understanding, and I think everybody agrees that we would love very much to have something named in her honor, and it certainly is fitting since she was so much a part of the development of our community as we know it today. One of the other things that we are working on very diligently now, the administration, is putting together the capital bonding program. You know, every year we bond, which is borrowing a certain amount of money to do some capital projects that we can't do, obviously, within our operating budget. And the main monies that are spent out of that program are for the curbing and repaving program that we do every year. Every year we do a number of streets, and the curbing program that we started about 3 or 4 years ago has become very, very popular, very much sought after in rebuilding a lot of the deteriorated curbs in the older sections of town, like Sarahwood South and South Old Bridge and up Madison Park, Central Park. And so every year we allocate monies to keep that program moving. We also look at updating some of our equipment, and we have drainage programs that we do in some of our recreation facilities that we want to update or expand. So we will be hopefully presenting that to council the first part of February so that they will be able to act on it, and we will have the monies available to start the work once the weather breaks, although we've had a very mild weather and been able to keep going with a lot of our projects, but that we will be making a big pitch come the spring. The update with the Y, which I talked to you about the last program, and you've heard if you've been listening to the council programs, we are going to be having a presentation by the Freehold Y, apparently either the first or second meeting in February, to inform the council about what they might be interested in doing in town. And once their presentation is made, then the council administration will be working together to see what is the best alternative in far as presenting that kind of community center to the township, whether we want one of the Ys to come in and actually build the facility and run it and do the fundraising, which is my preference, or the township build it and then have one of the Ys come in and manage it. So hopefully by mid-February or no later than the end of February, we will have made some decisions, and I'm sure we'll get input from the public, and that we can be well on our way to getting such a facility in our town, which I think everybody would like to see happen and is supportive of. I've been attending the month of January and February. I attend the annual volunteer fire company dinners, and those are something that are, as I said, held every year. And this year in particular, I think because of what happened on September 11th, they take on a special meaning in that we really appreciate and I think have taken time out to really understand and the sacrifice that so many of our residents make on our behalf. They are all volunteers, and they are called on to really put their lives on the line because they never know when they get that call what kind of fire they're going to be dealing with and what kind of danger lies ahead. And I think it's just really a tribute to our community that we have so many dedicated men and women who are willing to perform this service. And so I find it really an honor to be involved in these activities and get a chance to let them know how much we, on behalf of the township, appreciate their commitment. Also, one of the things that we've been rallying for, against actually, is a development that is being proposed in Aberdeen. It's on our borders off Morganville Road and Ticetown Road, adjacent to our community. And there's a proposal to build 400-plus units, multiplex sort of apartment, townhouse units, and it's being proposed through the Aberdeen Planning Board. We have taken a great interest in it because it will impact our community just on the fact that it's adjacent to us, and also will be using our roadways for the traffic that will be generated by this development, mainly Morganville to get to 516 and out that way, or through Ticetown to get over to Route 9. So we have been sending our professional planning staff to the meetings to give input. Quite a few residents have been attending, and we will be attending on a regular basis as long as those meetings are held to voice our concerns and our objections and to make sure that we are on the record as to the things that we feel need to be addressed and to protect the interests of our township and our residents. I know I've gotten a lot of calls about Town Center. It is under construction, and the Eckert drugstore, that is the first building to go up, a lot of people have expressed some concern because they expected to see the type of development that we talked about in the sketches, showing sort of a colonial theme and a town walking, pedestrian-friendly downtown sort of area. And I just want to reassure you that it is coming. The rest of the buildings are very much going to be in the style that was depicted on the sketches that you've seen. And the Eckert building, which now stands out so predominantly, is going to only be a part of this complex. It is set back. The other buildings are going to be closer to the road, so they will sort of take over, I think, in terms of the visuals of what you see when you look at the total picture. And unfortunately, because the application was before the zoning board and the town center ordinance had not been put into place, there had to be negotiations as to trying to get it as close to the concept that we, in fact, now are able to dictate through the ordinance. So there were some modifications made to the Eckert building. I'm sure all of us would have liked to have seen it toned down considerably. But I just ask you to be patient, and I think that when the end product is completed, it will be something that we can be very proud of. So we have busy times ahead of us. There's a lot of things to get moving so that when spring breaks, we will be able to get our projects and our outdoor activities going. And I would look forward to meeting with you in a couple of weeks. If any of you have any questions or concerns, you can send email through the website or give me a call. We do try to keep the website updated as much as we can. I just also want to let you know that the library has been reopened. The gas line, the repairs went very well and were completed in record time. And everything is all set with the heating. We have a well-heated building, and so you're welcome and encouraged to come back and utilize the library. So I just would like to say good night and have a good 2 weeks.